we got back today. Before we hit back, I always try and do like a little bit of bench, just to get some more volume in. So today we're gonna do some floor press before. This is not gonna be anything crazy. This is not gonna be anything that's gonna push anything too far. But we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna hit some back, and then that's pretty much it. It's probably gonna be a pretty short for one training session, but also a pretty short video, just because. For one, I'm very tired. We were up a lot last night with one of the kids, so not really feeling the best. But this is kind of why I do like to do kind of my own programming that allows me to more regulate my training and where I'm at. So we're gonna get in and get the work done. What? Yeah, having the ability by doing your own stuff, or having a training program that is more, I don't know, like a hybrid schedule, to where you don't have set days. Like today, waking up knowing that I had to hit back and bench. And it maybe at like a high level would suck, to be honest. But now that I can kind of dictate kind of how this goes, I'm not so like maybe number driven, but more effort driven. Instead of focusing so much on am I hitting a number better than last week, and I have to, and it's being dead set on it. Sometimes it's more about like, did last week did I keep it at RP 8, or 7, and then did this week am I going up a little bit in the RP scale? And if whether it means weight or not, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it means that I did the same weight for the same reps, but it took more effort just because of how I was. And I think sometimes it doesn't kill momentum per se. Yeah, so I think we'll keep right at 185, and do some sets from there. So yeah, but I think having the ability to kind of gauge yourself, and I've been lifting for a few years now. So I think I've been lifting for I think it's been over 5 years at this point. So I have had a good time and gauge on like just where I'm at, and how do I feel, and what does that mean for training wise? I mean, sometimes you're just not gonna feel the best. Like, I'm tired. I don't know, running on very low sleep, so very low energy today. But I can still come in. I can still get the work done. I can still put in the effort. I can still do what I need to do. But also, like, in my head as well, with this day in particular, I'm alternating between a bench day, a lower body day, and like a back day where I still hit a little bit of bench volume. But knowing that this back day intentions are to help regulate fatigue to begin with, it falling on today to me is not a terrible thing. It's just not. This allows me the ability to just cut the fatigue maybe a little more. So because our next training day is going to be more of a pec focused bench day, so I'll hit some incline and stuff like that. and then the day after that is like my main squat and deadlift day. So this kind of does help cut the fatigue quite a bit, and not being able to maybe go like super hard. I mean, at the end of the day, it does help. So now this, granted, if this was one of my main squat and deadlift days or my main bench day, and I slept the same amount that I did last night, I would not do the training day. I would skip it, have another rest day. But my options were to take a rest day or to, in my head, kind of get this back day out of the way. Still put in really good effort, still do what I need to do. But in a sense, get it out of the way. Get it done with. Yeah, great example is this floor press. I mean, last week I did 185 for a 3x8, and it moved a lot better than this even does, you know? Now, it would be really easy to feel super discouraged by it and want to make like a huge jump. Especially since yesterday went so well with front squatting, and making a big jump went so well. But very much lack of sleep is gonna affect that a lot. You know, the stress of being up for a while in the middle of the night adds to that. So it's a good example about just regulating yourselves, and sometimes taking a step back kind of helps you put your best foot forward in a way. So yeah, but I will say about the floor press and more about the benching and my back day in general is when I first set this up, I had like bench lower and just back, and I was like, that'll be perfect. I should be hitting bench 2-3 times a week. Well, then after doing it for a few weeks, I realized that depending on how it fell during the week, you know, when was my first time I benched, when was my rest days too, that I was benching like twice every like 12 to 14 days. So, or 2 to 3 times within like a 12 to 14 day span. So there's one week I only ended up technically benching one time because of how my rest days fell. And then looking at some other weeks, the most I benched was only 2 times in that week. So I changed some things up. I do think benching, the frequency of your bench, not so much the volume, but the frequency, I think affects a lot. I think that's one of the main drivers for your bench. So, I mean, the most I've benched ever with the 315, that happened at a segment where, just because of some reasons, I could only bench. So, and I found a nice program, 5 days bench, and I did. And I benched 5 days. Took the rest day off when I needed the rest day, but I think I even ended up pushing that to pretty much 6, almost 7 days a week for like 4 weeks, and that's really what made my bench kind of blow up. Yeah, that added quite a bit of weight in a pretty short period of time. So I do think that the frequency of benching got higher and higher until a point. There's a point where that program did burn me out, but I did make pretty good gains, and I did keep those for a while, for a very long time, until unfortunately I got hurt. But yeah, I think that benching more often is just it's just the name of the game, man. Like, that's just kind of how you do it. I've heard a couple people talk about it, and sometimes they have conflicting things, but I think in my head, my own experience with myself, that more frequency helps. yeah, like I think the one that mainly comes to my head is I've heard conflicting things from like Alex Bromley is a really good example. I mean, he talks about benching and pressing movements, and talks very specific about how modern lifters, younger lifters, do have a tendency to have higher frequency on bench. And he leans more towards, just like squat and deadlifts, you should be doing it 2 times a week. So if you can do it more, that means you're probably not training hard enough in those 2 days. And I can get that, and I can respect that. However, I've heard Matt Vena talk about it, and he's used the logic of, if we are going to treat benching like squatting and deadlifting, then our frequency should be double. Our volume should be double of what squat and deadlift is. Simply because if we're squatting 2 times a week and we're deadlifting 2 times a week, that means our lower body is getting that type of volume and that intensity 4 times a week. By where our quads, our hamstrings, our glutes, our lower back, all that then inherently is just getting hit 4 times a week, let alone when we're talking about reps, sets, and actual volume here. If we're just talking about frequency wise, yeah, I mean, 2 times a week squat, 2 times a week deadlift, that's 4 times a week lower body. So by that logic of we should be treating the bench like our squat and deadlift, then yeah, we absolutely should be benching 4 times a week. And I think that's where variation comes in, because squatting and deadlifting uses the same muscles in a sense, uses them differently, uses them, one is top down and back up, you get a good stretch reflex. Deadlift, you're trying to kind of create like a stretch in a way. You're trying to build that tension, pull slack, and you're trying to wedge yourself in to hopefully create some type of that, but obviously different. And I've seen recent stuff, people talk about how your hamstrings aren't even used in your deadlift, it's like a stabilizer. I don't know how much I really I see that. I see more conflicting stuff the other direction, but yeah, I mean, you're using quads, hamstrings, glutes, lower back, in both of those, and obviously you're using some other muscles as well. Deadlift ups, you're going to use some upper back, some lats more than you are in your squat, but I'm going to say you also use those in your squat as well to help stabilize and hold the bar on. So I do like the thinking that if I'm going to squat and deadlift twice a week, I need to bench 4 times, and 2 of those are probably more very, very close, if not exactly, to your comp bench. And the other 2 can be up to variation. So treating your comp bench as almost like a squat, and then treating your other stuff as like a deadlift, using it kind of like that, because your deadlift can complement your squat in a way. So yeah, I don't know, I really like that thinking behind it. So I did switch some things up. I do have it now to where I do bench. I bench. I'm gonna have a day of rest in a sense for my squat, and bench again, and then bench the following day. So, like I said, it really helps me out. Really helps me do what I need to do when it comes to frequency. Yeah. Oh man, I've done this too long. But I think a lot of what my training comes down to, and the main reason why I wanted to make videos, to be honest with you, is for one, I need to get my own thoughts out. I consume a lot of powerlifting content, training content. Whether it's reading, videos, anything like that. I do consume a lot, so I wanted to make some videos just to get my own thoughts on something, so I can look back on it. But also, like, I try to use a lot of what I hear, and if somebody says something that wildly contradicts everything else, I pretty much know like where we're standing. It's probably not the best advice, but if a lot of people say very similar things, and there's just some small, minute changes that need to be done, then I'm all for it. I'm all for trying to figure out how does that work for you. So it's kind of what I wanted to make this channel, is just for me to be able to like share a lot of the things that I've learned in a lot of different areas, a lot of different subjects of powerlifting or strength training from a lot of different people and a lot of different channels. So yeah, so like for example, right, like these pull-ups, I don't do just like regular dead hang, like a pull-up like you normally would. For some reason it tears my shoulders up real bad. But that being said, I did see videos of Brian Carroll and Dr. Stuart McGill. They did it more for back injuries, but doing a pull-up to where you grab onto the bar and you're resting in a sense, and you set your scapula, kind of how you would in a bench, and that's kind of why I do it. In a way, you're pulling your shoulder blades kind of back and down, but you're just making everything set. And then instead of like, down and back up and good shit, whatever, which can still be helpful, but for me, it hurts the front of my shoulders real bad, just real tight. And honestly, I like this better. I feel like this translates better. But setting your scap and then almost like exploding back to the bar, trying to get your chest to that bar super quick, coming back down. Not trying to use your feet that much, not trying to like pop yourself up or nothing like that, but just grabbing the bar. I stand on my heels a little bit, but pulling your shoulder blades, together in a sense, more back and down, but setting them and then exploding to the bar. I think these help a ton. I think this is direct carryover in my head to kind of what we talked about with the front squats. It doesn't have to per se work a very specific muscle group in order for it to be something that is of extreme help. Sometimes it can just be as simple as like, it does hit the muscle, but it just helps me with the movement pattern. It helps me with how to set, helps me with how to brace, tension, all that stuff. I feel like this is a very big one of like, this helps me in that bench when I have my back set. Yes, I don't want to bring the bar to my chest really quickly, but if I can do this quick and get strong with this, there's an aspect of I can fight that weight down a little bit with control, because I'm able to stabilize with my back. I'm able to use it, and also like, just obviously with deadlift too, having a strong upper back, strong lats are gonna help. This is a big builder for those, but I really like the aspect of that, of setting yourself and then like coming to the bar and then setting and coming to the bar. I don't know, it's almost like a reverse bench in a way. I'm not forcing it up, I'm forcing the bar to me instead of the bar, kind of away from me. So yeah, I love these. I think these are great. Super great, like just alternative to just some normal pull-ups. Now, with that said, I don't like to switch stuff up like crazy. I don't think we need to do some absolutely absurd stuff. I think that's the main reason why like science-based guys kind of get a bad rap, is they try to come up with some crazy elaborate setups and reinvent the wheel, something that's a pretty solid movement. And I don't think we need to do that, but I think a small little tweak of coming and setting our back to where we want it and exploding. yeah, so it's kind of where I'm at with that. Just trying to think. Trying to see where we're at with the day. But yeah, I don't know. I think that use those stuff, you know? Use the little tips and tricks here from this guy and that guy. You know, just because it doesn't pertain to the same reason as to why they did it, doesn't mean it can't be useful. You know, it doesn't mean that it can't be something that you can implement into your own training. Something that you can, you know, mess with and manipulate. So I do a lot of that stuff. You know, the majority of my training is you know, taking stuff from other people. I think that's kind of how you learn, you know, what works for you and what doesn't. Like, I think like these, a good example too, of you know, doing some accessories and just doing like a bodybuilder. I think is a great way to handle this stuff. Do your main movements, power like a powerlifter, you know. Let's keep it to comp standard the best you can. Explosive, worry about exploding. Strength, you know. We do need to worry about weight when it comes to our competition list. But for accessories, maybe training more like a bodybuilding style, not trying to use the same training techniques with barbells we do with dumbbells, you know, hitting heavy triples on bench and then coming over to do a heavy set of triples for like a chest supported row just doesn't make a ton of sense. You know, this is probably the area where we need to do more like bodybuilding. Slow, controlled, pausing, you know, fighting the eccentric back down, pushing more towards failure than we would on maybe the main movements. So depending on the movement, I do try to, like for accessories, I do try to push myself for it to be more close to failure. It just all depends on where I'm at with the weeks, training wise, how far am I trying to push that one particular movement. You know, is it going to backtrack away? Pull-ups, clearly. I'm going to do those until I hit failure. So, and because I can recover from that pretty decently. But something like this, I'll trying my best to take it close to failure, or at least until I get out of it what I need to get out of it. So, but does not mean we get to sandbag it. Does not mean we get to, you know, give it half effort or just use some lighter weights just too. But if I have to use lighter weight in order to be able to do it with control, then do it. Like, I think a good principle I try to do too is as I start my training day, I do very specific powerlifting, and as my training day goes on, it becomes less powerlifting and more bodybuilding, and things kind of switch, you know, slowly through the day. So a lot of that comes to doing, you know, lower rep, heavier weight stuff here, moving on to something that's kind of a good bridge, you know, a good compound lift still in a sense, you know, pull-ups, great example, pretty decent, what I think is still gonna be a compound lift, you know, because you're gonna use multiple muscles, you're gonna use your arms, you're gonna use your back, all that stuff. Obviously not as much compound as like a deadlift would be, but sure. But transitioning from a main movement to that as like a secondary movement, I think is huge. You know, it's like deadlifting and then after doing like an RDL. So very good compound movement, should cut the fatigue. Maybe not cut the fatigue, but it should manage the fatigue, because building fatigue in a deadlift is a lot easier than for most people, at least in an RDL. Because most people for powerlifting are pushing their deadlift, not so much their RDL. They're using their RDL to help, you know, and then going from that to, you know, something that maybe like a back raise, and then going from a back raise to just leg curls, like going more and more specific towards a certain body part and a group. That's kind of what we're doing now. You know, we did a main movement, we did a big compound, it's like secondary movement after we were done, and then now we're gonna do more of isolated stuff. So I need to treat it like how I would if I was an athlete that trained more for isolation. So, which would be bodybuilding, which would be getting a good stretch to the bottom, exploding up, pausing, and slowly bring it back down with control. And I think mainly too, it can just come down to if I'm training a muscle, that's the muscle I need to be using. So right now this is upper back. You're like, yeah, could I absolutely muscle the weight up? Yeah. Do I want to? No. I want to try to not be using biceps, to try to not be using, you know, some of the bigger drivers in my back. Try not to bring it too far down to where I'm just using lats. I'm trying to still kind of keep my elbows out a bit to use upper back. So when I'm exploding up, I'm focusing on, you know, using my upper back to bring it up. And then when it's going down, I'm not letting it down and fighting it with my lats more, or if I'm not trying to fight it down with my arms, I'm trying to fight it down with like using my upper back to do that, just trying to feel it. So yeah, using the different training styles, or using people's methods, or, you know, just advice that they have, I think is huge. And I think that's kind of what most athletes need to do too. You know, I mean, people can say what they want, but Westside kind of had it figured out when it came to a lot of things. And I think, you know, Louis talks about conjugate and what conjugate is. And conjugate does not have to be what Westside is. Oh, that's Westside style conjugate. But conjugate is just using different training modalities within one. And Louis was onto something with that, and he knew it. I mean, clearly he produced some of the best lifters of that time, who I think that if things would be different now, would still be some of the top guys, just given everything. But I think I'd be silly to not use other people's stuff. I lost count. So, hope it was close. But yeah, I use a lot of things, you know. I watch a bunch of Matt Venice stuff. is a big one. Calgary barbell, another big one for me. I watched a lot of West Side stuff, man. I have a ton of books, manuals, stuff like that. Juggernaut, Charlie Smith stuff. When it comes to like the Juggernaut AI, watch a ton of this stuff, a ton of content. Chad's own more personal stuff. Before, it's just when it's just Juggernaut training. I watched a lot of that stuff, man. Even like Candido, and I pull different stuff from him. I'm looking right now at a whiteboard that has a bunch of different training philosophies, modalities, structures, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to say. Some guys are big on hitting you need to hit this percentage for this and this and that, and some guys are more focused on movements or Louis with the conjugate, it was more about using multiple different ranges and multiple different training styles to achieve the goal. So I try to keep that all into mind. Louis modeled a lot of this stuff after Prilipin, so I do have like Prilipin's chart up there too. Now there's a lot to be said, a lot of arguments to be made on whether or not that does work for powerlifting, because it is for Olympic weightlifting. So I do see that, but I do really like the aspect of if we're hitting something over 90%, hitting 4 reps over 90 is pretty good. That's pretty like optimal. But doing sets of 1 to 2 to me makes sense, especially now because a lot of people are really into like fatigue singles before triples or ascending doubles and stuff like that. And a lot of times what they end up doing is they end up hitting a double at 90 and then trying to hit like another double a little higher, like 94% of what their max would be. Especially with Louis, man, because Louis would take like your max for the day. Like, what would your max be for that day based on what you hit? If I hit a double at 405, then that means that like my max is 425 or whatever. I don't know what the math is, but is 405, over 90% of 425, and then staying at that weight until we get 4-ish reps. And if you look at Louis' stuff, that's kind of how it was. They were hitting, their max effort was triples or singles, a couple singles, a 2x2. I was like, that's, so I think there is some truth to that. Yeah, I think that, using the things that other people say and taking that into account, yes, some people are going to be more submaximal. Some people are going to be more closer to your max, but taking a step back and really looking at like, okay, well, why does it work, and to what extent does it work too, if a guy is, most of his work is around 80 to 90%, another guy's most of his work is, some of it's over 90 and the rest is 70s, like, figuring out why, obviously different class, different category, but watching guys at deadlift, and they'll pull 800. I just watched Rondell Hunt. Yesterday I think he pulled like 826 or something like that for a double, which great. But his back offs were 572, so that's a big weight reduction there. Clearly works for him, not knocking it whatsoever. But to the same aspect, like if I hit the top set on deadlifts and I took the same amount of weight off, I'm gonna go from by top set to pretty much an empty bar. Like you can't do that. So figuring out also why does that guy do that? Is he really hitting, you know, over 90% and then everything else is in the at 70 because he's just that strong? And fatigue wise, like the back off sets are more for movement patterns, and you know he's already fatigued, so he doesn't need to try to build just more fatigue on top of that, at least CNS fatigue, but he just wants to, you know, get good work on the muscle, you know, like he can drop that low. But like, you know, a guy that deadlifts 400 pounds is not going to take off 300. You know, I'm not going to go from a 400 pound top set to a 100 pound back off. So, you know, maybe in my head, in my instance, I need to work more with somebody that does maybe still top sets at 90% or similar, 85, 90, 95. But then, you know, my back offs are at 80, you know, 85 when I hit my top sets at 95 or whatever. So yeah, use other people's stuff. Yeah, it's out there. It's there for a reason. Steal it, in a sense. Like, I have all their stuff written down on a whiteboard of percentages and stuff of you know, how do their programs structure? What do they talk about? You know, they said this, they said that. I write all that stuff down, man, and then I take it and I use it. When two guys say the same things or very similar, then that's when I go, okay, there probably is some truth to that. They've had success, their clients have had success. Why don't I take that? You know, why don't I take that for myself, and then I'll figure it out, and I use one and I go, well, that doesn't quite work. That's not as hard. It's not hard enough, or this is too hard, too fatiguing. So you know, maybe I lean more towards one guy. That's it, man. Like, taking other people's stuff, I think is the big one. So yeah, I'm gonna do another set of these curls, and then do another bicep thing and kind of call it a day. Like I said, super short training day for me, just trying to get in, get some work done, get out. Very tired. So yeah, we'll see post tomorrow. If not, it'll be the day after. We'll see. Tomorrow, like I said, is a pec focused bench day, so pretty excited for those. That day, really like to bench. So yeah, well, I guess see you in the next video.